All right, so looking at today, close out on McLeod reading, go on up. Some of you already have this open to narrative 26. And we have the Telltale Heart plot charting diagram. I know that some of you are getting tired of plot charting by this point. Suck it up, Buttercup. You'll be okay. Okay. When you're looking at the exposition, it doesn't come right out and say like the year or when everything happened. But if you use the information we know about Edgar Allan Poe, is this a modern story? Did this happen in the 20th century? Okay. So it's probably within his time frame. Remember, we know when he lived, so you can look at that as a reference. Okay, you can look at that as a reference, use those types of things. You should be able to describe the surroundings pretty thoroughly because I believe the narrator tells us a pretty good idea of what it looks like. The narrator is a character, but do we ever know his name? Do we know the old man's name? Okay, so those are all key factors. They are still characters, though. All right. What is the main conflict we see within the story? Well, he doesn't want the eye, right? Like he doesn't want to possess it. Right. Like take it out? Like you think he wants to go to the old man and pop the eyeball out and like keep it? Right. If you think of it as like he wants to take him out as an idiom, he wants the eyeball gone, right? Of some way he wants the eyeball from the old man gone in some capacity, right? Just needs to be gone. How does he decide to take care of that? Okay, so you can go into greater detail here. This is where just writing conflict number one. The narrator hates the old man's eye. Is that enough for your description of a conflict? No, Jackie. No. I know sarcastically you're nodding your head, but I know you know better. You don't always write more than that, but you do know better. All right. It should be descriptive. Remember, take it to where the plot line is developed, right? Like it makes sense that this is starting to develop some of the plot. The narrator wants to eliminate the old man's eye because he's afraid of it for some reason. He goes to the extent that he decides he wants to kill the old man. He even makes a plan. He starts stalking him at night. You can go into a great amount of detail here because there's a great amount of detail for the story. What can we possibly, that's the main conflict. What can we possibly have for our other conflicts? What you got?
He's trying to make the old man comfortable with him at first.
Good. You're absolutely right. He's trying to make the old man comfortable. How does he do that? What's that? He gets to know him. Is he nice to him? Good. He talks to him in the morning. He tries to kind of ignore the eye and just have a conversation with him each morning, right? In case you didn't realize, the narrator in some capacity either works for the old man or he lives with the old man. They live in the same household. Okay, they don't go into great description there, but they're definitely in the same house. Okay, what could our third conflict possibly be? Somebody other than Connie. Good, fantastic. So that's an internal conflict. That's a conflict of self versus self, right? He's battling something inside of his head.
Also, it could be he is trying to get away with murder.
Okay, you could have that as a conflict, but you'll have to go into a little bit more than just the rising action. You'll probably fall into the falling action here, and we'll talk about that in a minute. What's up? He could have been. We try not to diagnose someone that we don't know or don't have the symptoms. I mean, we can guess, but I do think it's unfair to try to diagnose somebody when we don't have the ability skill. I know. But I just wanted to interject that point because we tend to do that as people anyway. So we discussed the three conflicts. What do you think the climax of our story is? This happens to be the highest point in the story, and it's the most exciting. Probably killing the old man would be the climax. Okay. But the biggest reason why it's the climax is our number one conflict is the narrator's hatred for that eye, right? Does he resolve the main conflict when he kills the old man? That's what the highest point of the story means. We're resolving the main conflict. That is what we see as our climax. Who was involved? Pretty straightforward. Why did it happen? Also pretty straightforward. Again, remember, describe how it is presented. Be detailed. Give me the story details of how this is performed. What do we see in the story? Don't just, again, say, well, he killed him. There's more that goes into it than that, right? It's a shorter story, but there's a lot in the story itself. The falling action is quite a bit bigger in this story, right? After he's taken care of business, he describes what happens next, right? He actually tells us what happens. What do we start to see? What's that? Police come to his house, and then everything starts to unravel, right? But go into details about what's going on here. You've got to be able to write out how the story goes. I want details. Description, description, description. Some of you are getting better with this. Others are still struggling. It needs to be detailed, complete sentences, punctuation, do the right things here. And the resolution you should come up with, villains. That's what he yells just before he tells everyone what he's hearing. Confesses, yes. Confesses to murder. Questions about the Telltale Heart? I know you don't have much time to finish this up today, so I'm going to give you today and tomorrow to work on it in class. You don't have to take this home for homework. You're welcome, Jackie. Is it detailed, Jackie? Don't you fib to me.